Alright, sorry if it's a little choppy. The app's being updated and I can't get my pen to work. So I'm going to try to show how to complete the square to convert to vertex form. These questions here that I'm going to do are going to be a little bit trickier because I'm going to end up getting fractions for my answers. And with these questions, you're going to have to leave your questions in fraction form so that way you're representing the most exact form. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to partially factor. So I'm going to say, I'm going to factor out of this right here, I'm going to factor 2. So what I'm going to do is I'll just write 2 and then leave x squared minus 5x behind plus 3. The next thing I'm going to need to do is I need to brainstorm what term can I insert into there to help us complete the square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what's left over, and I know that it's going to be negative 5 over 2 squared. And one pattern that was discussed in class is that what we have in brackets here before we square it is actually going to end up being the answer for what is our factors when we want to write it in or as a square. So we're just going to keep that in mind for later, and I'll come back to that. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to square that. So that's going to be negative 5 over 2 times negative 5 over 2, which is going to equal 25 over 4. So because I don't have a lot of room, I'm going to end up actually erasing all this in a second. But what I'm going to do is I'll just write y equals 2. And that this is the moment we're going to use our square brackets. X squared minus 5x plus 25 over 4. Now that I've got that information from the side, I'm just going to erase all this. I'm sorry if that's kind of gone, but I'm going to leave that term up at the top here. Sorry. I'm going to leave this up at the top here just so we have it for later, because we'll probably end up needing it for what I was talking about. So that's minus 25 over 4, close square bracket. And right here, there's our 0 pair right there. We've got our positive 25 over 4 and our negative 25 over 4, which combine at this moment to make 0. And then we can't forget about our plus 3. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write y equals. And so what we can do is we can move this out of the brackets by multiplying it by 2. Now one example that we did talk about in class, and I will erase this after, but if you say 2 times negative 25 over 4, because 2 and 4 are both common multiples, what you can do is you can actually divide, or you can cancel them out. So if I divide that by 2 and divide that by 2, that equals 2. So what you end up getting is when you multiply 2 times negative 25 over 4, what you'll get is negative 25 over 2. So when I break this out of the brackets and multiply by 2, that's what I'm going to end up getting. So I'm going to take a second, I'll write that out, and I'm going to erase my rough work. So I've got 2x squared minus 5x plus 25 over 4, close bracket, minus 25 over 2. So you notice my denominator's changed now. To reflect what the work I've done over here has happened, and it's being inserted there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second, I'm going to just delete my work over here, and it's going to be gone. So that's gone. And I'm going to delete this too, just to kind of clean things up, so I have a bit more room. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add these terms right here together. So I can't just take that and thought I'd be able to. Oh, I can. Awesome. I can't just add 3 to 25 over 2. I'm going to have to make it a common denominator. So I know it's 3 over 1. I'm going to times it by 2 and times it by 2 to make it 6 over 2. So we can actually add negative 25 over 2 plus 6 over 2. So that's going to be y equals 2. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to turn this into, or I'm going to turn it into a perfect square, or I'm going to factor it. And I know that it's going to be x minus 5 over 2. And you're probably thinking, how did I do that so quick? I used the information from up here from earlier, and I knew that negative 5 over 2 times negative 5 over 2 makes positive 25 over 4, and negative 5 over 2 plus negative 5 over 2 equals negative 5. That's squared. Next thing I'm going to write is negative 25 over 2 plus 6 over 2. And to finish it off now, we say y equals 2 x minus 5 over 2 squared. And then what's negative 25 plus 6? And I believe that's negative 19 over 2. Our vertex in that case would be positive 5 over 2 comma negative 19 over 2. Alright, I'm going to struggle to keep this all on the screen, so we'll see how I'll do, and we'll see if I need to kind of expand over the side, or maybe add another slide. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out negative 7. So I'm going to get y equals negative 7 x squared. And now what happens is you can't divide, and this is much trickier than the last one, but we're going to end up with a fraction right at the top. So what I'm going to get is I'm going to get negative, we're going to get positive, because the negative times the negative equals to positive. I'm going to get negative 2 over 7. You can't change that into decimal, you have to leave it as a fraction, so we're getting our most exact answer, plus 10. So there we go, we've partially factored now. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to find our c term that would go in right here to complete that square. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take 2 over 7. And usually you take 2 over 7 and you think, well, I'm going to divide by 2. And then overall, this is really bad math form. So instead of saying this, which is really not good math form, another way we can say the same thing is 2 over 7 times 1/2 squared. And I'm going to take a second and erase that other stuff that I don't want. There, that's kind of not as good form. And that way it's like it was never there. Perfect. So I know that 2 times 1 equals 2, and 7 over 2, or 7 times 2 equals 14. And that's squared, and that's also equal to or equivalent to 1 over 7 squared. And I'm taking a second to write this out again, because I know that when it comes to factoring a perfect square, that 1 over 7 is going to come in real handy. And I know 1 over 7 squared is equal to 1 over 49. What's 1 times 1 is 1, and 7 times 7 is 7. So I'm going to end up cleaning up that work over on the side, but I'll use it for right now. Y equals negative 7 square bracket, round bracket, x squared plus 2 over 7x plus 1 over 49, close round bracket, minus 1 over 49, and there's our 0 pair, plus 10. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say y equals negative 7, and let's clean up, let's move 1 over 49 out, and I'm going to just do a little bit of erasing here, and see what we can kind of move out of the way here, so we can have a bit more workspace. I wonder if I'm going to have to delete some of this stuff here. I'll delete it. We'll remember 1 over 7 squared for later. I'm just going to put that up in the thought bubble up here. Oops, shouldn't move that. So we'll stick that up in the thought bubble right up here, and we'll just remember 1 over 7 squared was what we had before that we were trying to remember. So rough work I need to do right now is I need to multiply. So we're going to move this out of the brackets here. To move this out of the brackets, we're going to have to take negative 7 and multiply by negative 1 over 49. So when we say negative 7 times 1 over 40, yikes, 9, that's negative. I know that my negative times a negative is going to make it a positive. Next thing is I know that 7 and 49 are both common, they are common multiples, or they have common multiples. And I know that I could take that and I can cancel these out. 7 divided by 7 makes 1, and 49 divided by 7 makes 7. So 7 times 1 over 49 actually equals 1 over 7. And because it's a negative times a negative, it becomes positive 1 over 7. So I'm going to take a second and I'll just write bracket. And I'll take this and I'll skip one step. And now this is positive 1 over 7. And that's squared. So now we've used up, that up, so I don't need that information anymore. And now we go plus value we got right over here, so that's going to be plus 1 over 7 plus 10. Now I can't just take 1 over 7 and add it to 10, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take 10 and know that it's 10 over 1, and multiply by 7, and multiply by 7. So y equals negative 7 x plus 1 over 7, there's my perfect square. And now I'm going to do plus 1 over 7 plus 70 over 7. And finally, y equals negative 7 x plus 1 over 7 squared. And what's 1 over 7 plus 70 over 7? And it becomes 71 over 7. And that would be our equation from standard form into vertex form. And if you needed to, you could state your vertex of negative 1 over 7, comma 71 over 7. I'm sorry I erased my rough work over the side, but I only have so much room as I go. There we go.